Perfeito. Okay. Olá, bom dia. Estamos aqui para mais uma edição do Poesia ao Meio-Dia, que é um programa da Cátedra William Butler Yeats da Universidade de São Paulo. E hoje, com dois grandes nomes da literatura contemporânea, a poeta, contista, romancista Mary O'Donnell e também poeta, contista, romancista, tradutora, vencedora do Jabuti, a Lucy Collin, e é uma alegria poder dividir esse espaço com dois nomes tão importantes da literatura hoje. Então, sem mais delongas, passo a palavra a Lucy Collin, que tem vindo a traduzir vários poetas irlandeses, dentre eles a nossa querida Mary O'Donnell. Lucy, a palavra é sua. Obrigada.
Obrigada, Gisele. Eu começo falando em português para agradecer essa oportunidade de estar com a Mary. And now I will start to speak English to address Mary for this very special moment in which we may show the translations of your poetry. Let me briefly explain what is the way I organize this publication. Mary has published a book that is called Massacre of the Birds. And from this book, I've selected some poems to a new publication that will be called Onde Estão os Pássaros? Where are the birds? Something like this, with this intriguing thing, like using this either in English, where as a question, but with no question mark. And in Portuguese, it works the same way, because we have this word, onde, that indicates it will be a question. So it starts from the title with this intriguing possibility of interpretation. So I will invite Mary to, I will indicate some titles here, and then I will invite Mary to comment briefly about the poems, and then she will read the poem and I will read the translation. Mary, it's a great pleasure to be here with you.
Obrigada e bom dia. I'm delighted to have these translations of my poems, obviously, and I will read now the title poem, A Husband's Lament for the Massacre of the Birds. And as I was saying earlier, the poem was inspired by two things. One of them, my discovery of the billions of birds, the number of birds who are killed every year crossing Europe en route to Africa. And also my husband's passion for gardening inspired it as well, and his interest in the natural world. So he does this by counting, he does this by digging. Oh, loss, loss, for the swallows have not returned. Loss, for the neap tide shows no sandpiper, nor green shank, and he digs the garden to plant what will attract all comers of wing. All are welcome in his green field, the swifts that have not returned to crisscross the sky, pigeons long shot and bagged, and songbirds that in Europe are vanishing, glued, poisoned, trapped, so that the full-bellied can dine in a rustic restaurant in Tuscany. He welcomes too in his dream garden the fan-tailed in his garden dream, the fan-tailed warbler, glued to death in Cyprus in an agony of open beak, chaffinch, blackcap, quail and thrush. Oh, loss, loss, as the songs die and little throats close against final mutilation. He will continue to prepare each year this place for the birds. And surely a man can beat his chest and cry out to his neighbor, let us bellow in rage, let us bellow in sorrow, let us plant these spaces to make havens for the hunted. And that's the end of that poem.
Lamento de um marido pelo massacre dos pássaros. Ele vai fazendo enquanto conta, enquanto cava. Ah, perda, perda, pois as andorinhas não voltaram. Perda, pois a maré baixa não traz nenhum maçarico, nenhum perna verde, e ele cava o jardim para plantar o que atrairá todos os visitantes de asas. Todos são bem-vindos em seu terreno verde, os taperás, que não voltaram a cruzar o céu, pombos há muito baleados e ensacados, e pássaros canoros que na Europa vão sumindo, colados, envenenados, presos, para que os pançudos possam jantar num restaurante caseiro na Toscana. Ele acolhe também em seu jardim dos sonhos a touti negra, colada até a morte em Chipre, numa agonia de bico aberto. Tentilhão, barrete preto, codorniz e tordo. Ah, perda, perda. Quando cantos morrem e gargantinhas se fecham ante a mutilação final. Todo ano ele seguirá preparando esse lugar para os pássaros e, é claro, um homem pode bater no peito e gritar para o vizinho. É de berrar de raiva, é de berrar de dor. Vamos plantar esses espaços e criar refúgios aos que são caça.
Lucy, isso é lindo. Obrigada.
I thank you. I thank you for this opportunity, and besides, for the great quality of your poetry. There is something very special, Mary, that called my attention since the very first reading of your poems. And by the way, it was Laura, Professor Laura, who presented or introduced your poetry to me, to whom I also think that your really special ability to join all these classical references as what we have in this poem you read, and this reverberation here, this loss, and all this possibility of understanding this with this new approach in our contemporary moment. So this is very special. Why? For me, as a reader, there is this precious opportunity to feel connected with past and, inverted commas, use all this experience in the understanding of the present moment. So I thank you very much. I will, since we started with this ecological poem even, I will ask you to read the poem that is entitled Gaia, April 2020. Please.
Certainly. The first time I heard the word was in 1983. A young mother new to the workshop, baby in arms. This is Gaia, she said. Now Gaia, bearer of life, rests in our arms again. Her supple fists release thrush and finch as novelties. She tosses bees towards uncut, swollen dandelions, fondles wood anemone in neglected copses. Her hand cracks yellowness like an egg, a broken spill on each dawn. She has cleansed the thick silts of canals, muds of the Rio de la Plata, the scum of the Liffey, so that fish may return. All day, cherry trees twitch along tawny terraces as sparrows dart on sprays of pink. At dusk, her eyes show us how to gaze higher, deeper, this hall of stars, brighter, more of them guiding the eye through Hawking's cosmos, with no reverence for anything except themselves in expansion. Gaia sucks at the breast, drowsing while we stay at home and fret, the anxiety of parenthood filling us with duties obligations. And you know what I should have said, of course, that was written during the first spring of COVID. And we had the most beautiful spring here. Every day was sunny and nature was just breaking out. But as you can see by my reference to the Rio de la Plata, I had not forgotten my trip to South America the previous year. And, that river was still in my head.
It's wonderful. It's a big reference to the bridges I mentioned. So I'll read the poem in Portuguese. Gaia, abril de 2020. A primeira vez que ouvi a palavra foi em 1983. Uma jovem mãe, nova na oficina, bebê no colo. Esta é a Gaia, ela disse. Agora Gaia, portadora da vida, repousa em nossos braços de novo. Seus punhos flexíveis liberam tordo e pinta-roxo como novidades. Ela lança abelhas na direção de intactos e inchados dentes de leão. Acaricia a anêmona de madeira em bosques abandonados. Sua mão quebra amarelos como um ovo, uma inundação a cada aurora. Ela tem limpado os lodos espessos de canais, lamas do Rio de la Plata, a escuma do Life, para que os peixes retornem. O dia todo, cerejeiras tremem ao longo de terraços terracota, enquanto pardais dardejam em borrifos de rosa. Ao entardecer, seus olhos nos mostram como olhar mais alto, mais fundo. Esse feixe de estrelas mais brilhante, mais delas, guiando o olho através do cosmos de Hawking, sem reverência por nada, exceto por elas mesmas em expansão. Gaia mama no peito, cochilando, enquanto nós ficamos em casa e nos afligimos. A ânsia da parentalidade nos enchendo de deveres e obrigações.
Wonderful. Wonderful to hear the music of Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. It's, and now I'm trying to learn Portuguese slowly. So I can hear things better now.
There is this strong quality, sonority is very strong in your poems. So I think that you dedicate this special interest in the sounds, the melodious combinations, and also the rhythmical combination. So True. This is why I paid attention into the original, trying to recover or to preserve, let's say, all this structure which is connected to sounds in your poem. I will ask you to comment and then read the poem Message from Malmo.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Where the heck? Oh, yes. Page 23. Yes. Well, in 2015, I was on the island of Gotland off the coast of Sweden, and I was staying in the the Baltic Writers and Translators House for a month. And although I did not visit Malmö, but I was reading about it at the time. And when I was in Gotland, also the first Syrian refugees were arriving there and being accommodated. And the Swedish were very open, and they were saying, "Welcome to Sweden, you are safe here." But this is about Malmö, which is different. And indeed, it's a much more problematic area, I believe, nowadays. But anyway, message from Malmö. In the market, the immigrants are grappling with clothes, some to buy, some to sell. Everybody has something on offer, a garment or some coins. The faces of the Syrians new to the place show intent. they are here. They have made it. Now some sort of life may begin again. The women wear sadness in their eyes, thick as the heavy wool garments for sale. The husbands are cloaked in defiance, desperation, and the young men, also defiant, wear invisible undergarments that sparkle with hope. They are girded by belts of adventure, possibility, preparing to mend the great torn blanket that was once their family, now left behind in the dust. And as you know, this is one of the central challenges, really, on an existential level, I think, at the moment. The huge numbers of people who need to move, who have to move, and they have to go somewhere. It is a global thing, as you know, the crisis.
Yeah, indeed. We have been experiencing this around the world. And I think that this is one of the themes that most reverberates in philosophical terms. And whenever we see this reproduced in poetry, it shows the impact of the word. Which sometimes is minimized by the social pressures, but we see the response of the poetical word to all these problems, showing that poetry will never be detached from this perception of what is happening and presenting, let's say, this very this special, as I said, perception of how we are to act. We should, act poetically in the world. So I read the translation of this poem, and it reads: Mensagem de Malmo. No mercado, os imigrantes se atracam com roupas, uns para comprar, outros para vender. Todo mundo tem algo para oferecer. Uma roupa ou algumas moedas. Os rostos dos sírios novos no local mostram determinação, estão aqui, conseguiram. Agora, algum tipo de vida pode recomeçar. As mulheres trazem tristeza nos olhos, espessa, como as pesadas roupas de lã à venda. Os maridos estão vestidos em desafio, desespero, e os jovens, também desafiadores, usam roupas íntimas, invisíveis, que brilham com esperança. Estão cingidos por cintos de aventura, de possibilidades, prontos para remendar a grande manta desfeita que já foi sua família, agora deixada para trás na poeira. This is very impacting.
Yes, just listening to it there, you know, in Portuguese again, I'm following it very closely, and just you've done such wonderful work on these texts. I really know that it's a privilege. I've always felt that it is a privilege for any writer to have their work translated into another tongue, into another language. It's because I read a lot of translation myself, so you know, so I'm very interested in the process.
I thank you again. Look, I think that now we will read the penultimate of the poems, and I will ask you to read the poem that is entitled Ghost.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Let's see, what page is it on? 29. Yeah, you know, as you become an older woman, there are many philosophical changes in outlook on the way, and one of them, of course, is the the growing invisibility that one acquires also, as speaking as a woman. And I, not totally invisible, but the fascination that one holds as a younger woman vanishes, or really is dissipated, and suddenly you realize that you have this ghostly side. This it can be seen by some as an absence, but for me it's in a positive. I'm viewing this positively. Ghost. I want to be a ghost in my own house. You may still live here. You can come and go in the casual glide of daily tasks. Just leave me be, happy in my haunting of this room, which never had a key. The secret metal is my writer's heart, which needs to shrink away from signs of flesh, becoming white, then paler, less than grey, so that you hardly notice how greatly I need this house to submit to haunting, to inhale my chill. If I am unseen yet felt, surely that will be sufficient. I want to be a ghost in my own house. Do not speak to me. Do not spread fond hands along my thigh or breast. Just come and go. Be free. I am haunting myself away from open doors and friendly passageways, from that candled nook by a winter fire, withdrawing behind the shades of morning, while you inhabit the shell I bequeath.
Fantasma. Quero ser um fantasma na minha própria casa. Você ainda pode viver aqui, ir e vir no deslizar casual das tarefas diárias. Apenas me deixe ser feliz no meu assombramento desse quarto que nunca teve chave. O metal secreto é o meu coração de escritora, que precisa se esquivar dos sinais da carne, tornando-se branco, depois mais pálido, menos que cinza, para que mal se perceba o quanto preciso que essa casa se submeta a ser assombrada, para inalar meu frio. Se eu não for vista, mas ainda assim sentida, por certo, isso bastará. Quero ser um fantasma na minha própria casa. Não fale comigo, não estenda mãos afetuosas na direção da minha coxa ou peito. Só venha e vá. Seja livre. Estou me assombrando, livre de portas abertas e passagens suaves, daquele recanto iluminado por um fogo de inverno, retirando-se por trás das sombras da manhã, enquanto você habita a concha que deixo como legado.
Concha. Sim.
And now I will ask you to read the last poem. Let me check. Many are the favorite ones here, but since I have just this one to pick up, I will ask you to read. Let me check here. Oh, I just love this. So this is my special request. Please read the poem on metaphor. Mary, it means a lot to me, this poem. So
thank you. Yes. Well, clearly this poem does refer to my mother in very real old age, when she was about 92, 93. And she never liked going to the shower. She just wanted to be left alone. But anyway, of course, it got me thinking, as you can imagine. And I wanted to hold on to her, perhaps, yes, by comparing her in the end still to a goddess, On metaphor. I never realized how apt those old comparisons of female parts to roses in particular. metaphysical lines on love, lushness, and moisture, or petals in tactile frills, until the day I soaped and washed my mother in her shower chair, saw her labia in its dying glory. Like any late autumn rose, her petals hanging loose had shriveled, awaiting the slightest wintry wind to blow them free. Even so, I write of them with love, the metaphysics of a woman's life in transit, this aged Venus eclipsed by time. And if I could, just before you read, I just want to tell you one little detail. This poem has been responded to in an art project that I'm part of. So an artist has responded to it. But anyway, she drew a rose. But it was on display somewhere, and a doctor came up to me and he said, actually, grammatically, the word it's incorrect. The line saw her labia in their dying glory is what I wrote. But he said the labia is a singular, so it should be its. That's why I read its.
Perfect. Do you know that this poem has two different appeals to me, and I will tell you briefly as a reader. First, that you approach what you just mentioned, that is how difficult it is for women who are aging to understand our own process, and also to see this in the other women who surround us, and in this case here with the mother. And this is a very, very important and process for us to understand. So this is the first way it touches me. And the second one is literary. It seems that you are bringing this notion of the rose, the flower, which is so much present as in literature from Shakespeare on, see, the ways that, and then Gertrude Stein will bring it, rose is a rose, with this arousal in it. And here you thematize this, see, as this big metaphor for aging and this decline, this physical decline, and how could we deal with that in this poetical way. So this is one of my favorite poems, and see, I will read the translation now. It touches me very much.
Thank you.
Sobre a metáfora. Nunca tinha percebido quão acertadas são aquelas velhas comparações de partes femininas às rosas em particular. Versos metafísicos sobre amor, exuberância e umidade, ou pétalas em pregas táteis, até o dia em que ensaboei e lavei minha mãe em sua cadeira de banho. Vi seus lábios numa glória morrediça, como qualquer rosa do final do outono. As pétalas, relaxadas, tinham murchado, esperando o mais leve vento invernal para soltá-las. Mesmo assim, escrevo sobre elas com amor, a metafísica da vida de uma mulher em trânsito, essa Vênus envelhecida, eclipsada pelo tempo.
Fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, it was it's a poem that was easy to write in a way. You know, it fell into place, and I had always been struck by how the metaphysical poets, for example, you know, they talk a great deal about youth, and they have these comparisons, and then later Robert Herrick and all these people. So I thought, okay, I'll give them something to think about.
In a wonderful way. Congrats, Mary.
Thank you, both poets, because Lucy is not only a translator, but also a poet. So it's wonderful having this opportunity of gathering both of you for the reading. And I'm sure everyone watching us will be excited to read more about the book in translation, Massacre of the Birds. So once again, Mary, thank you very much for joining us, and Lucy also for taking the time and being with us. And we hope to see you again in the end of September for another Poesia ao Meio-Dia. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. Giselle or Gisela? Giselle?
Giselle.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Lucy also. It was a pleasure to finally meet you and hear what you've done. And I look forward to seeing you in late September again. It will be great.
Thank you, you both.
Lovely.
And it's quite an emotion to be here with you, Mary. So we will see each other soon, presently. So
Very
this is
soon,
really great.
you know.
Thank you, Giselle, and congrats for this very special opportunity to have poetry and to just be in contact with the sonority of the poems. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Will I leave now? I just go, yes?